It is the guaranteed minimum rent which lessee is required to pay the lessor in any year, whatever may be output or sale. Tenant, the person who takes out the special right from his owner on lease for a consideration is called lessee. Lessee is a person. Royalty receivable account transferred to profit and loss account. Short working allowable account data to profit. If the short working is not recovered, then you have to transfer to profit and loss account. Hello my dear students, I am Dr. B.S. Subramania, called by name Dr. B.S.S., Professor in Commerce and Management, Vidhyaashram First Aid College, a Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. In this session, I am going to hand Advanced Financial Accounting, second semester, Unit 3, Session 1, in favor of royalty account. So far, in the last session, we solved the problem on hire purchase and installment. In the third unit, you are going to study about the royalty account. Now, I am going to explain what are the concepts of royalty account. What do you mean by royalty account? What are the contents are? We'll move on. Meaning, royalty is the periodical consideration or payment based on the output or sale made by one person called the lessee to another person called the lessor for taking out on lease the special rights vested in the lessor. So, the periodical payment, the utilizer of the land. There are two persons here is, one is the lessor, one is the lessee. Lessor is the owner, lessee is a man, one who utilizing your land. He may be tenant, he utilizes for so many years. Your what's called patent right is a royalty, is a periodical consideration. It's a consideration for 1 year and payment based on output or sale made by one person called lessee. Sale made by the called lessee to another person called the lessor for taking out the lease, the special right vested in the lessor. Whatever the lessor is there, taken by the lessee. Lessee is the person who taking out the output, the rights of the lessor made by one person called the lessee to another person called the lessor for taking out the lessee, the special right vested in lessor. Who takes out? Lessee takes out the special right from the lessor. Lessor is the land, lessor is the landlord, lessee is the tenant. So, sale made by one person called lessee to another person, output or sale made by one person called the lessee to another person called the lessor for taking out on lease the special right vested in lessor. Who takes out? Lessee takes out the special right from the lessor. Lessor is called the landlord, lessee is called a tenant. What is minimum rent? It is the guaranteed minimum rent which lessee is required to pay the lessor in any year, whatever may be output or sale. So, it is the royalty is the periodical consideration or payment based on the output or sale made by one person called royalty is the periodical consideration or payment based on the output payment made by the lessee to another person called lessor. Who makes the payment? The lessee makes the payment to another person called lessor for taking out the lessee, the special right vested in the lessor. Whatever the output is there, the special right is enjoyed by whom? Lessee. He takes out the lessee and pays some consideration. That some consideration we call as a royalty. Royalty is a compensation payable by lessee to lessor. Who is the lessor? Is the landlord. Lessee is the utilizer of the land, and it is nothing but a compensation payable by the lessee to the lessor for utilizing the land for some purpose. It may be one person to lessee to another person called lessor for taking out the special rights. This is important. So, lessor is the landlord, lessee is the tenant. What is the minimum rent? It is the guaranteed minimum amount which lessee required to pay the lessor in a year, whatever may be output or whatever the royalty is there. Minimum rent is a guarantee amount payable by lessee to lessor. If the royalty is more, he has to pay the royalty. If the minimum rent is more, he has to pay the minimum rent. Either the minimum rent or the royalty, whichever is more, should be paid to lessor. This is important. Either the royalty or the minimum rent, whichever is more, should be payable to whom? Lessor. So lessor is always safe. So if the royalty is less, pay the minimum rent. If the royalty is more, pay the royalty, he says. Either the royalty or the minimum rent, whichever is more. Who says this? Lessor to lessee. Only an agreement is there. Either when you utilize the what's called a particular outright, or we can say the utilize the particular right, you have to pay the money. Either the royalty or the minimum rent, whichever is more. If the minimum rent is more, pay the minimum rent. If the royalty is more, pay the royalty, whichever is more to the lessor. So lessor is always safe. Who is the lessor? Lessor is the landlord. So minimum rent is amount. What is short working? When the minimum rent is more, when the royalty is called, it is called short working. So minimum rent, excess of minimum rent over the royalty is called short working. Then, move on. Who is a landlord? The person who gives his special right over the something, say mining rights, patent right, copyrights on lease to another person for a consideration is called the lessor. Landlord. Lessor is a owner who gives his special right to another, utilize the another person called lessee, who pays the money to the owner is called a landlord or lessor. Tenant. The person who takes out the special right from his owner on lease for a consideration is called lessee. Lessee is a person, one who takes out special right from the lessor is called the tenant who is going to pay. Short working recoupment. Recoup. The objective of every royalty agreement contains a provision giving the lessee the right to recover the short working of the earlier years out of the surplus royalty. If any of the later year. Short working means minimum rent more and the royalty is less. Whatever the short working comes, that can be recovered from the lessee 2 years out of the surplus of the royalty. If the royalty is more, you can recover whatever the short working comes, that can be recovered in the next later years. Here same thing, no? The objective of every royalty agreement contains a provision given the lessee, some provision given to lessee, the right to recover the short working, the right to recover the shorting of the earlier years, whatever the short working comes, that can be recovered in the later years out of the surplus of the royalty. Hope you understand. Then, what are the entries to be passed? Journal entry in the books of lessee format when minimum rent is more. Entry, minimum rent account data to landlord account. That means we have to pay the landlord the minimum rent because the minimum rent is more than the royalty. Then whatever the royalty comes, royalty account data or short working account data to minimum. Assume that the minimum rent is 10,000, but if royalty is only 8,000, assume that. Then minimum rent account data 10,000 to landlord account 10,000. How much you earn? 8,000. Royalty account data 8,000, short working account data 2,000, to minimum rent account 10,000. Shall I repeat now once again? If the minimum rent is 10,000, but if the earned royalty is only 8,000, how to pass the entry? Minimum rent account data to landlord account 10,000, royalty account data 8,000, short working account data 2,000, to minimum rent account 10,000. What? Then you pay the 10,000 to landlord account data 10,000, to bank account 10,000. Then profit and loss account to royalty, profit and loss account data 8,000 to royalty account data 8,000. So if the short working is not recovered, then it will be transferred to profit and loss account. Then journal entry in the books of lessee when royalty is more now. That time when the minimum rent is more, now the royalty is more. Entry, royalty account data to landlord account, to short working means short working is recovery. Then pay to landlord account data to bank account, transfer entry, profit and loss account data to royalty account. Then journal entry books, when the minimum rent is more, lessor book format. When minimum rent is more, lessee account data to minimum rent account, cash or bank account data to lessee account, royalty receivable account data to profit and loss account, short working allowable to profit and loss account. Entry must be perfect. Lessee account data to minimum rent account. So who is the debtor? Lessee is the debtor. He has to pay the minimum rent. When he receive the minimum rent, cash or bank account data to lessee account. Then royalty receivable account transfer to profit and loss account. Short working allowable account data to profit. If the short working is not recovered, then you have to transfer to profit and loss account. So general entry in the books of Lexar, when royalty is more, lessee account data, short working allowable account data to royalty receivable account, cash or bank account data to lessee account, then royalty receivable account data to profit and loss account, short working account data to profit and loss account. These are all the formal entries. Now, we'll go with the ledger. What are the ledger they have to ask? One is the minimum rent, one is the royalty, one is the short working. Here, we go with the minimum rent. First one, here see that minimum rent account data to landlord account. For that, how much you get the royalty? By royalty, by short. What's the entry? Royalty account data, short working account data to minimum rent. So this will be goes when the minimum rent is more. What's the entry? Minimum rent account data to landlord account. And second here, by royalty account data by short working account. Hope you understand. Then royalty account. Here, royalty account data to minimum rent account, transfer to P&L account, royalty, when the royalty is more, royalty account data to landlord account, to short working, transfer to profit and loss account. Here, when the minimum rent is more, royalty account data to minimum rent account, by profit and loss account transferred it. When the royalties are more, royalty account data to landlord account, to short working account, transfer to profit and loss account. This is a format. Then come back to landlord. Landlord account data, we pay the landlord. What we pay? Minimum rent. Landlord account data to bank account. If the royalty is more, we pay the royalty. Here, we pay the landlord, but what we pay is a minimum rent is more. Then we pay the landlord. What is more? Royalty is more. So understand? Here, two bank account paid when the minimum rent is more. Two bank account paid to landlord when the royalty is more. Depends upon the problem. But anyhow, this is only two bank here. When the minimum rent is more, we write the minimum rent. When the royalty is more, we write the royalty. Here always two bank will come. Here, if the minimum rent is more, we write minimum rent. If the royalty is more, you write the royalty. Hope you understand. Then short working. Short working to minimum rent account, by balance carried down, to balance brought down. If the recovery by royalty account, short working recovered, by P&L account, which is not recovered, by profit and loss account, loss will be transferred. Remaining is a balance carried down, next will be brought down. So I will repeat, short working to minimum rent account, then by balance carried down, brought down the minimum rent. Now recover if the royalty is more, by royalty, how much would not be recovered? By profit and loss account. This is nothing but a loss. Then by balance carried down, brought down, next year it is going to be recovered. Just it's only a format. Hope you understand. So I have given the journal entries in the books of lessor, in the books of lessee, and formal ledger account. 4 ledgers are given. How to prepare the ledger depends upon the journal entry. Hope you understand. In the next session, we'll come back with the problem. Whatever the journal entry you pass, whatever the lecture we have shown, same thing will be asked. This is for 15 marks. Very, very easy. But you have to write one chart, one's called table. That table will be shown in the next class or next session when you are solving the problem. Till then, goodbye. Meet in the next session with a problem.